Chair recognizes Mr.
He yielded.
Oh,
back.
Mr. Biggs, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I've been running back and forth from hearing to hearing today. Always interesting to hear people say things, just make them up. Fantasy, we got to hear from one of our colleagues across the aisle a moment ago saying this hearing is a result of trying to protect oil and gas industry. You know, sometimes you get to fabricate, you get to promote a fantasy, and that's what we just heard. But that's too bad. That's too bad. It's been nearly a decade since this committee under Chairman Issa exposed Operation Checkpoint, the Obama administration's weaponization of regulatory power to starve lawful businesses of their access to capital and banking services. Unfortunately, the latest iteration of Chokepoint is being undertaken by unaccountable international organizations, large asset managers acting in breach of their fiduciary responsibilities, and is being encouraged by the Biden administration, which is pushing the advancement of ESG priorities beyond agency authorities and at the expense of their statutory missions. General Reyes and General Marshall, I understand that one of my Democratic colleagues has accused committee Republicans of promoting corporate socialism today, another fabrication and fantasy. Given that ESG is being forced on the public by the Biden administration and by activists, Mr. Reyes, Mr. Marshall, would either of you like to respond to the claim made by one of my colleagues?
I think we're advocating corporate independence, the ability to make decisions for your business based upon what's best in the return for shareholders as a result of the work that you're doing. One of the things that we clearly have seen is a concentration of wealth in a very few that is cause for them to be able to create policy changes within companies that are not generated by their board, not generated by shareholders who generally are involved, but instead by a small group who happens to hold significant amounts of shares in those companies. The other thing, Mr. Congressman, that we've heard today is what is truly a fiduciary duty. It is clear that this is a UN-generated project. ESG factors themselves. That's where it came from. And even the UN acknowledged in a recent report in 2021 that the definition of fiduciary duty needs to be changed in order to validly consider ESG factors. That's not a part of the financial return. It's clearly designed to create a very different political agenda and not one consistent with investor return.
Yeah. So I want to elaborate since we only have 2.5 minutes left, because what you're talking about, the way I understand, is mixed motive investing. So there's a 2020 Stanford Law Review article by Max Schatzenbach and Robert Sitkoff entitled Reconciling Fiduciary Duty, Social Conscience, the Law and Economics of ESG Investing by Trustee. Are either of you familiar with that piece?
I'm not.
I'm not, sir.
Okay. Well, the article goes on to describe for trustees acting with mixed motive. He says, acting with mixed motives triggers an irrebuttable presumption of wrongdoing under the sole interest rule. Does that sound accurate to you as the way you understand the sole interest rule?
Yes.
That's accurate, Congressman.
If so, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit to the record several decisions, the Fifth Third versus Dudenhofer case, the Central States versus Central Transport case, and several articles by Vollmer. But I want to go.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. I want to go to this right here from that Stanford Law Review article, and then I'm going to ask you to expand on this in our closing amount of time. Acting with mixed motives triggers an irrebuttable presumption of wrongdoing, full stop. Because the sole interest rule is prohibitory rather than regulatory, to prove a breach, a beneficiary need only prove the fact of a trustee's mixed motives. Under the sole interest rule, the trustee violates the duty of loyalty, even in the absence of self-dealing, if the trustee has any motive or rationale for undertaking an action other than the sole interest or exclusive benefit of the beneficiary. How does ESG standards encroach upon the fiduciary duty described by the sole interest rule?
Before you came, Congressman, we read numerous quotes from these horizontal organizations that clearly state their ultimate purpose, and there's an end result for net zero compliance. That is the motivation for them beyond anything else. And that's why that is more akin to corporate socialism than anything that we espouse. Socialism takes away liberty, it takes away free will, and socialism doesn't ask what's in the best interest of the individual, it asks what's in the best interest of the state. We're absolutely championing the opposite, which is how do you maximize shareholder value for the individual?
Thank you, and I see that my time has expired, but I wish you, Mr. Reyes, if you'd give your treasurer, State Treasurer Morley Oaks, my
I'll
regards.
pass on to our great treasurer.
Thank you.
Your hello.
Yield back, thanks.